Welcome to the Arabia Steamboat Museum. What you are about to see is the blending of two stories, each filled with treasure, adventure, danger, and an unyielding determination of strength and spirit. These stories, though decades apart, are a testament to the ingenuity of American adventurers and the significance of riverboat travel in building the United States as we now know it. Join us as we begin the first of our stories, long, long ago, in the late summer of 1856. At that time in our nation's history, there were only 31 states in the Union. Kansas and Nebraska were nothing but unorganized territories, considered by most as wilderness. Colorado, North Dakota, and South Dakota didn't even exist. But people were a-coming. In 1803, President Thomas Jefferson nearly doubled the size of the United States with the Louisiana Purchase, a stretch of land starting from the Mississippi River and extending all the way to the Rocky Mountains. This massive expansion broke America wide open for commerce and possibility. Steamboats revolutionized portage to the frontier. They carried hundreds of tons of freight efficiently and with great comfort to the passengers compared with overland travel. There were activities on board and ample time to relax and converse with other travelers. But river passage had its drawbacks. Hundreds of steamboats sank, carrying precious cargo and passengers, often with significant human tragedy. Despite the dangers, if you wanted to travel in luxury, if you had tons of cargo to transport, or if you were looking for adventure and scenes of an untamed Wild West, traveling aboard a riverboat vessel was one surefire ticket to the adventure of a lifetime. One such vessel was the Steamboat Arabia. Built in 1853 in Brownsville, Pennsylvania, this side-wheeler was capable of carrying over 200 tons of cargo and voyagers. Fully loaded, her side wheels and 6-foot draft made her the ideal boat to travel on the muddy Mo. In late August of 1856, the crew of the Great White Arabia began the backbreaking task of loading the vessel with 200 tons of freight for its 1,200-mile round-trip journey along the wilds of the Missouri River. It was late afternoon on Friday, September 5th, and most aboard were preparing for their evening meal. Hours earlier, they had passed Kansas City, and now the township of Parkville, Missouri was within sight. And then suddenly, and without warning, the steamer's hull was fiercely ripped apart by the jagged trunk of a walnut tree, lying undetected just below the river's surface. Water surged across the deck and poured through open doorways. All aboard were saved, except for a mule tied to the deck. But there was no saving the vessel. The 3-year-old Steamboat Arabia would be lost, along with the valuable cargo that she carried. Supplies, personal heirlooms, clothes, everything the passengers had thoughtfully brought to begin a new life out west was gone. All had fallen victim to the indifferent and unpredictable currents of the mighty Missouri River. Over time, the river changed course, leaving the hiding place of the Arabia 45 feet beneath a Kansas farm field, and it was mostly forgotten, entombed for decades, deep in the river's gray mud and far, far away from human reach. But what of her treasure? Some said she carried gold, others said fine china. What was actually there was shrouded in mystery for decades. That is, until one family and their friends set out on an adventure of their own to rediscover the sunken steamboat and its cargo of lost treasures. Disaster aboard the Arabia. Large and valuable cargo lost. All passengers saved. These were the headlines David Hawley discovered in a St. Louis newspaper dated from September 1856. Using a small rowboat, the crew of the Arabia had transferred the passengers to the river shore, but were unable to get to the cargo stowed in the hull of the boat. As the sun sank below the horizon, so too did the Arabia. Overnight, the steamer was swallowed up in the quicksand of the riverbed, and by morning, only the smokestacks and pilot house were visible. Those too would soon disappear, leaving the Arabia's exact location a mystery, lost for generations to come. Over time, the river slowly altered its course and pushed itself east. When it moved, it also left behind the wrecked ship, leaving the resting place of the Arabia not in the river, as one might suspect, but in the middle of a nearby Kansas cornfield. The owner of the land, Norman Sorter, whose grandfather had purchased the property in the early 1860s, had known of the Arabia from a young age. Over the decades, there had been several attempts to reach the lost vessel. As early as the 1870s, treasure hunters had searched for the Arabia, not for its cargo of general stores and building supplies, but rather the 400 barrels of Kentucky bourbon that had, as legend told, gone down with the ship. Many had tried. None had succeeded. That is, until the Hawleys, along with Jerry Mackey and Dave Luttrell, set their sights on recovering the sunken treasure. When asked if he would allow another attempt, Sorter replied, "If you want to waste your time and your money, you go right ahead."
All of what you see here were on the Arabia and recovered from the ship intact